So with me here today is my friend Nicolò, and the way we met was very strange. We met at this really dingy gaming cafe, and we didn't know what game we wanted to play, so we all hopped on League, and maybe an hour or two later, I found out that you were a business owner in UAE, in Italy. And then you opened up a business in the UAE, and the type of business you opened kind of blew my mind. Okay, so we all have dreams of owning an ice cream truck one day as a kid, like 11 or 12, but you actually did it. You opened up a large gelato chain in the UAE. And Nicolò, like, explain to me the thought process behind that. Why would you randomly open up a gelato business from being a business owner in Italy and into the UAE? Like, what was the thought process behind that?
I think it was easier than playing League of Legends.
Yeah,
to be
no,
honest.
no,
League of Legends is
that
the
game is
hardest
terrible.
thing I played in my life. It was bad. Well, the thought process was more natural than you think. I was here. I was having some time off, and I contacted a good friend of mine, a guy I've known since I'm 8 years old. He wanted to open a gelateria for his own. I had free time. Dubai was, I think, the perfect place to start it because, people can afford it. The weather is nice all year round. Well, it was it was more natural. Then I contacted my guy. As I said, I've known him for my entire life. We grew up together. We went to football together. He's a good guy. He was a gelato maker. There was an opportunity here. The market was needing a sort of artisanal gelato. I felt the need was there. I reached out to him and I was like, are you interested in moving to Dubai and trying this thing together? I'm going to help you set it all up. I'm going to invest. We do the business plan. I'll support you for 3 years. And that's the key number, 3 years, because I'm proud of that. We'll go back to that later. And 3 months later, we jumped into a flight to Dubai. And then 3 months later, we opened it.
And I've seen, like, right after you told me that you owned a gelato business, and it was around 9 p.m. at night. I'm like, dude, you got to show me it right now. So it was very interesting. You're like, hop in my car. We went to kind of your work area in Business Bay where you actually make the gelato. Yeah. And the guy that helps you make the gelato, Samuel, he was there. And that blew my mind because he's also the mascot. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, it's the guy. Your face is on the ice cream. And
I
then
don't know if we can show the face, but the logo is actually his face.
Yeah.
I contacted a guy on Fiverr, like a bunch of them.
Yeah.
I one-lined his face silhouette, and it's exactly like him. Like, you meet him in person, you see the silhouette, it's like, yeah, that's the guy.
And Samuel, he doesn't speak a lot of English, so there was a bit of a communication.
Yeah, no.
He's all right. So I said, Samuel, your face, ice cream, a lot of girls. He's like, yeah. Like, he's immediately like, you must get so many girls as being the ice cream man.
Yeah,
and
the ice cream man. Well, it's a good line to have on Tinder if you ever need to. Like, you're gonna have unlimited free ice cream if you marry me. But yeah, he had absolutely no English whatsoever. I think like the vocabulary was 10 words, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter when you have that passion. Even clients that were coming to the store to meet him or to see how it was done, it doesn't matter. Passion transcends language. So they would get hooked either on the quality of the product or the passion of Samuel.
And that's very, we talk about UAE progressing as a country and how everyone speaks English here, but that wasn't always the case. Like 10, 15 years ago, it was very much a bunch of people with jumbled up different languages coming together. Yeah. So it's nice to see some of that old school, well, I don't speak English, I don't speak Arabic, I speak Italian, but we're still going to run a successful business somehow just because our product is that good. So I'm really happy to see those kind of entrepreneurs still coming into the UAE and being very successful.
Yeah.
So you spoke about entering after 3 months. What did that process look like to you? Because your kind of setup was a lot more elaborate. It was food and beverages. There was a lot of compliance, I imagine, a lot of specific licensing requirements. But I'm also more interested in how did you conduct the feasibility on whether you should enter the UAE market at all? How would if you were to give advice to a business owner saying, okay, I want to take my product to the UAE,
Yeah.
what do they need to know or kind of look into?
I think the biggest challenge is sourcing the raw material. Once that is sorted, and you can have a reliant and consistent quality chain of sourcing, then it was just a question of where do we place it. Because the business plan was never to open a proper gelateria, like the ones that you see on movies, or you go to Italy and grab a gelato for a walk. It was never like that. I wanted to open a cloud kitchen because it was a kind of new concept in 2020. So the question was, where can we place it on the map where we can cater the most amount of people that can afford it? It's an artisanal product made by hand, not by hand, by machines, but hand-fed. A lot of the process is still manual, so it's expensive. I literally just searched online a table, an Excel of all of the areas in Dubai. I overlaid that one on top of the map, on the Google map. I drew a radius on those locations that could be feasible, where we could set it up. And then I would look into each community in Dubai, look at the value of real estate, and see if those people, those communities could afford it. So by doing that work, which didn't take much, was like 2-3 days, I found a couple of hotspots where I was like, okay, this is gonna work. And that trust was very important because Samuele he didn't think it would work. Like we had, for the first month, I don't know, we generated like 3,000 dirhams.
Yeah.
It was depressing.
Yeah.
And the worst part is Samuele would wake up very early, produce like not much, but like 20 kilos of gelato. And then by night, only 1 kilo would be sold. You had to throw away the remaining 19, start again the next day. It was depressing, 1 month like this. And the guy was smoking and smoking. Samuele smokes a lot. It was smoking and smoking. It was saying, this is not going to work. How are we going to do this? This is not going to work. I'm like, trust it. Trust the process. It's going to take time, but it's going to happen. The numbers are there, I'm sure. And it did happen.
So where would you say was the kind of the breaking point where you're saying, okay, now we're making money. This has finally worked. My goals have come into fruition. Is there a timeline that you sought from inception to what was the exact point that you said, okay, we are officially in business, we're profitable, and we're working well?
The balances. Well, accounting wise, you see when you start to break even, and that was the point where we kind of started to relax because growth month over month was consistent and growing. We hit break even. From that point forward, I was like, okay, we have a positive delta where we can relax a bit.
How many months would you say before?
It was 9 months.
9 months,
Yeah,
exactly. So as
good.
much as a baby, pretty much.
Yeah, literally a baby. Literally, yeah.
So after you broke even, did you continue to scale into higher levels of profitability, and now you've stabilized, or is there a continuous fight to stay in the game to retain your margins in business?
Staying in the game is not the challenge. I think growth is the challenge because the marginality is thin. Unlike a gelateria where the margins are 30 to 35%, in the cloud kitchen business where you have an intermediary delivering the product, we are looking at 7-8% net. So it's not much left at the end of the year to reinvest. And that's the challenge. So ideally, the business plan and even the real life scenario says you should open more cloud kitchens, create some more economies of scale, negotiate terms with suppliers, negotiate terms with those renting you the spaces, negotiate terms with Deliveroo, Talabat, Karim, and you'll get a bit of 1% here, 0.5% there, 0.2 here, and in the end you're gonna have like 11-12% margins where you can actually do some nice things. So now we are at a stage where we want to open a new cloud kitchen in the north, in between Dubai and Sharjah. And that would be the last one. That would be the last cloud kitchen. From that point onwards, the business plan was saying, let's first fulfill Dubai's distribution through cloud kitchens so people have a chance to try the product, get passionate, get hooked on it. We have clients that order it religiously. Every Tuesday, 9 p.m., same flavors. They've been doing so for years. So once you're hooked and you like it, you have a name. You can go out and try new distribution channels. It would be, for example, retail. And we've been, this approach worked because we applied this summer for the Spinneys Incubator Program, which is a program where they help you bring an artisanal Dubai-made product from concept to the shelves. And we applied to it. When we presented the idea, 4 out of 10 judges, let's call them judges, but it's C-level type of people in the Spinneys organization, 4 out of 10 were customers already. So they were the ones introducing our brand to the other judges. And after they deliberated, we won that incubator program, and we're starting to move towards getting somewhere into the shelves as well.
Yeah, we spoke about that very, very briefly. You seem to indicate it, which was incredibly exciting that you're going to go from generally, ice cream or gelato is one of those things that people most often do grab off the grocery shelves. So it was interesting for you to expand the product into store shelves where you don't have to worry as much as, cloud kitchens. The waste would be reduced because the amount you throw out, you can just throw into a jar and then ship it into grocery stores. And most people think that entering the UAE market, it is incredibly difficult, but would you say that the scalability of a business is harder in the UAE versus Europe in comparison to
100%?
And why do you think that is? Why is it so much harder to scale a business in UAE versus Europe?
Capital expenditure here is huge. It's you need a lot of capital to make a dent. In Europe, there is smaller cities, there are medium-level cities, there are big cities. So you can choose, like in a video game, you can choose the difficulty when you begin. If you go in a small town, small returns, but low risks. And if you want to expand, I'll give you an example, like a small shop in the city center could run you, 1,500 euros per month. And you have footfall coming from the city center. Here, something like this would be probably 10, 20x, if not more. So it's, as a small brand, it's very capital intensive.
I've made examples in the past that UAE's an interesting platform for business owners, that it seems to be pay to play. You have to pay a lot of money up front before you start entertaining your client base, and you need a lot of funding and backing up your initial entrance into the market, unless you're a service-based business, in which case you can kind of scale infinite without much capital required. So you mentioned that now you're going to open the second cloud kitchen and then try to get your product. Third?
The third one.
The third cloud kitchen, and then push your product into shelves. Yeah. What is the ultimate goal? Do you want to expand into other GCC regions or things of that nature?
I think that becomes natural. It's a natural move. Once you have your foot in the door with the retailers, you just need to prove history of sales, and the other retailers will follow. So the GCC retail market is also played by the same players. So Dubai, Saudi, or whatever it will be, they know each other. So word spreads around. If you sell well, you're going to get into them. So that's the natural step. Personally, I would try to expand more into Asia. However, Samuele's Gelato, which is the brand name, is not fit for the market yet, because it's a middle to high income product. So what I would do is I would expand into Asia, find a target brand to acquire, we improve their operations, we improve their scalability, but we also retain that retailability that they've already established. So if they're in retailers, we can use that leverage for when that country becomes
more developed,
richer,
or
developed, yeah,
or
more
the
developed.
average income per person increases,
Exactly.
disposable income.
And then we push somewhere else as well. But we have a lot of experience in making the product, scaling it, and compliance as well, because it's food. Like, people can get sick out of it. So if you don't do it properly or don't store it properly, things go bad quickly. So we have a lot of experience on that side and marketing. I believe there's a lot that we can do, and the Asian market is huge. Look at India, it's billions of people. Here it's a fraction of that. So if you can capture even 1%, it's a lot. It's a total addressable market that is life-changing.
So your general perspective is, if you have kind of a high disposable income market, it's better to present your product, which may be higher expense, just direct to retail and then scale from there. But if you are dealing with a developing economy, it's better to acquire established brands and then slowly introduce your product as the standard of living increases for those countries?
I think the challenge is not developing or developed. I think the challenge is cultural. I don't really know how to market to those societies. So if you can acquire a company that already does it and is successful or mildly successful, then it's easier, because you can retain that talent and you can push somewhere else at a later stage.
So UAE being incredibly multicultural, 85% of the population is expat. So how would you determine a cultural strategy for a country with non-uniform cultures or things of that nature?
That's a good question.
How did you think, okay, I'm going to bring Samuel's to gelato and I know how to market into this? Well, marketing is mostly aligned with cultural expectations or mentalities, but over here there are no standards for cultural acceptance besides whatever people in UAE agree is a good product. So how did you bring that? What was your marketing idea that says, this is how I'm going to advertise to everybody who's from everywhere?
That's a great question, and I'm going to give you a very simple answer. I didn't know how. I really didn't know how. We went through trial and error. That's it. We approached marketing companies, communication companies. The results were mixed. There was no clear path of we're making it work or not. So we just canceled those contracts and did it our own. We did it poorly. We continue to do it poorly. We don't perform well when it comes to marketing and communication. But going back to the first talk, when you can communicate your passion, regardless of language, culture, regardless of any barrier, the message will get there. So even through trial and error, even doing it poorly, I think we can get our message out there and make it work, even if it's not polished or perfect. And culturally speaking, it doesn't matter. Even the good thing about Dubai is, even if you miss your shot, it will land somewhere. And for us, even if we didn't hit anybody, like if we used the wrong messaging for a wider culture, we would still hit the Italians. And the Italians, as it happened, became our first brand ambassadors. The Italians talk to other Europeans, because that's how circles get created here. And we grew with Europeans, from Europeans to locals, from locals to the wider audience. So that's how it worked. We didn't know how.
I think that idea is actually very, cross-industry. I found that it is better just to not necessarily fixate on one demographic of people, but a demographic of clients that would appreciate your product or service and have them refer or introduce you to other clients, and then eventually it expands to various other kind of regions you wouldn't expect. For example, so as you know, I'm Pakistani. I am now very well known in the Dutch Pakistani community. And you don't believe that there's a Dutch Pakistani community, but there is. And it's really shocking. So you'd be quite surprised how small the world has become, where different interactions between different kind of people you wouldn't expect to connect actually have their small demographics within each country and region. And I guess, can people, like, for example, when you marketed to Italians, etc., how do you market to Italians? Let's just start there.
We are tough.
Yeah?
We're tough. We're a tough audience because we are price sensitive and we expect the world. We want everything. Artisanal, great ingredients, but a low price point, which is impossible here. It's literally impossible. So we tried to have a price point that was justified, but not too expensive. And I think that we played well how we describe our menu, because we use words that only Italians would use. We describe products in a way that only Italians would. How one product is worked, how the paste is toasted, the geographic location of a certain product. And that picks up in the mind of an Italian, because that's how we usually speak. It's not hazelnuts, it's hazelnut from Piemonte. It's not pistachio, it's pistachio from Bronte. And you toast it, and you do this, and you do that, and that's how I think Italians connect.
I also love the packaging of how, so most, gelato places, you get a little plastic cup, or you get some, you send a brick, like it's in a styrofoam a brick. And it's kind of, it's endearing, because I feel like a lot of products or services are kind of really polished these days, but just like Five Guys that chuck the fries in the bag, you throw your gelato into a brick, and then you do it there. And then I also noticed that you had certain flavors that were not particularly traditional. Like my favorite one is the Ferrero Rocher one. Yeah. And then you've also incorporated other brands or products. Do you think that in the future you might potentially partner up with major, like, do you have a Dubai chocolate one?
No, it was an experiment from somewhere. I didn't agree with that, but it didn't sell.
Really?
It didn't sell. Every time, and I'll tell you why. Every time we try something that is mixed with other cultures, it never works. Why? Because it's just a positioning matter. We are positioned in the artisanal Italian gelato. When you think about artisanal Italian gelato, you think about Samuele's. As soon as you start introducing into the menu something else, I don't know, saffron, Dubai chocolate, or anything else, it just doesn't click. Because you want Italian traditional artisanal gelato, and that's what we provide you. And it just doesn't work. So I would not partner with others unless they can bring additional value to the table. Like if their brand contributes to the sales and like just the brand itself, then yeah, I might. But I strongly believe and strongly enforce it that we just do traditional stuff. And Ferrero Rocher, it's not traditional for here, but in Italy, everyone does it.
Really?
Yeah, everyone.
That's kind of surprising to hear. Do you see Samuel's Gelato going up against some of the giants we're talking?
I want to.
Baskin Robbins, Cold Stone. Are you going to go?
Not that route, though, because Baskin Robbins and Cold Stone, they are physical retail stores. I don't want to do that. I think we saw it with COVID. 4 months of a city shut down, you go out of business. So I want to be in retailers, because no matter what, you still are going to order food, you're still going to go to the grocery store. And I think that's where the real value is long term. I wouldn't compete with them, but I would compete with Häagen-Dazs. I would compete with
Ben & Jerry's, maybe?
Ben & Jerry's for me is the top. Now there's like Löwenhausen. There's a bunch. But for me, like, I think Ben & Jerry's is my ideal of I made it. Like once I'm next to it, I made it. And that's probably the time to start thinking about selling.
Oh, you're okay. So you would eventually bring in additional shareholders or dilute some of your stock, et cetera, to private to additional parties to help expand the business further into that global level?
I would.
Would you say that it's unavoidable if you want to reach those levels that eventually you're going to have to? So at a certain point, if you want to go global, you're going to have to sell off the brand.
Some way or another, yes.
Okay. And then I guess I've always spoken about having trusted partners in your business to be one of the core foundations of a business.
Yeah.
For example, when I started my UK branch, my partner there was Henry. We spoke about him briefly, and it was kind of a bit of, silly blind trust. Would you say that you have a similar relationship with Samuel, or do you create some sort of guardrails to make sure that there's checks and balances for each other?
That's a good question. I've known the guy for like 25 years before setting this up. I would not go into an agreement blindly. I would not bring a partner that I don't know. I know this guy. I've seen him naked in the showers at football practice. I know his family. I know his dogs. I know everything, and he knows everything about me. So some way or another, either through a referral of somebody you really trust and really knows you well, then you might go blindly. It happened to me for another company, and I'm still with this partner since 14 years. But yeah, I need to trust the guy, because you're trusting your finance, your brand, your company, your time. All of this translates into your time. Like, you would not want to waste, 5 years into a toxic relationship, right?
Yeah.
So that's the same. It's like choosing a wife. It's the same. Choosing a partner is like choosing a wife, just with less steps.
Less steps. Yeah. Okay. And I guess where do your contributions, where are your major contributions? So clearly Samuel's kind of the operational guy. He knows the product. He knows the dessert. He knows how to make it. He's getting up early to produce the product that you will eventually sell. How would you say that you bring in value, besides the capital injection? I'm sure you do a lot in terms of services behind the scenes.
So I strongly believe that a partner should do everything else that you're incapable of. So from the beginning, we establish clear responsibilities. You do this, I do that. Perfect complementarity. I don't know how to describe it, but it works. It worked in my previous businesses. It worked in this one. Clear responsibilities. Now, what I do was everything that came from the idea stage until the proper execution, I made it. And then from execution forward, which means marketing, logistics, partnerships, procurement, hiring, handling all of the admin, all of that stuff until you're well structured, some of the partner is gonna have to handle it. Now we are lucky enough to be structured, so Samuele can focus on the operation side of things, and I can focus more on the financial and branding and marketing side of things. But at the beginning, both need to do a bit of everything, as long as you have clear responsibilities and they do not overlap. And this is very important, because when you start overlapping things and responsibilities, that's when you start arguing. Because you think you're right, I think you're wrong. But I would never judge the way he makes gelato, and he would never judge the way I establish a marketing campaign. So that's, I think, the best way to keep the relationship healthy.
I think it's also important that if you're given a responsibility, to have complete ownership over that responsibility. Yeah. For example, if I'm in charge of marketing, well, I rather just control every facet of it instead of negotiating with someone else on how to execute it. So when it doesn't work, instead of reflecting on yourself, you might blame your partner or someone else as opposed to your contribution. So it's very important. And well, of course, opening a business in UAE must have been incredibly tough, but you've also moved a big part of your life here. How do you feel about the lifestyle in UAE compared to the way back home? I know you hop around a number of countries, but how do you feel about living in UAE and kind of operating a business at the same time here?
What I love about the UAE is that if you need at midnight, you still have a chance to be able to make things move. Something that in my home country you would never be able to do. Like at 5 p.m., you're done. No matter what you want to do, you can send emails, you can call, they're not going to answer. It's done. 5 p.m. is finished. Here at midnight, you can keep things in motion. So if you want to work, or personally, I do sprints. When I think it's time to expand, I go full on Rambo mode. I schedule the execution for the next 3 months, and I execute it. In those months, if I miss something and it's like 8 p.m., I can send a message to someone and he will reply. And he will say, okay, I'll make it happen tomorrow morning. And that I love. But it's also the one of the bad things about Dubai, that it's always going on. It's always active. It's always moving. And that grinds you down. And that's why every 4 months, I like to decompress. I like to move to a quieter place, Italy, Argentina, or whatever it will be, to decompress, because you need it.
So would you say that UAE almost encourages a sense of burnout culture in terms of work?
I'm very lucky that I can do burnout and rest. Many people just do burnout. But yeah, I would not be able to do 12 years full-on Dubai entrepreneur mode, because it grinds me down. I cannot. Otherwise, at one point, you just become an execution machine. You just do without thinking, without no concept of why you're doing things. What's the ultimate goal of what you're doing? You just do for doing, which is awful.
Do you feel that has changed you fundamentally as an entrepreneur? When you go back to Europe, do you get frustrated with the way things are? Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
Then how do you adjust back to, okay, let's do it slow and steady. Let's go through things step by step. Or how do you click back to that mentality of saying, well, this is how it works here. We need to adapt.
You adapt in the sense that when I'm here, I structure a sprint. And then I have 1 month to decompress here and be like, okay, let's slow it down, but keep things operational. So I see how my sprint went, if I need to improve something or not, if I need to redo this or that. Well, I'll take the month to adjust, and then I'm off. I relax, and you're kind of forced to be relaxed in Italy. Like, I come from a small town. Again, 5 p.m. everything is closed. Everything shuts down. You cannot work. And at that point, you just adapt. That's how it is. You relax, you take care of your wife, your baby, you do groceries, you go for a walk, and you have to. That's how it is.
And you speak about your family. You've recently become a father, and how has that impacted your business or your life, or how do you manage being a father and running a business? Because I think that the world has changed, that fathers, which is a good thing, they're expected to take more of a role in nurturing and raising their children, as opposed to just being money printing machines and smoking cigars and drinking scotch at the end of the day. And
Coming
where's my dinner? Those days are like, we don't want them to come back, but those days are long gone. So how was it? I have always thought that, well, if I have a kid, I don't think I'd have the attention span to then raise a child and also run a business. How have you managed to do so quite successfully?
You cannot. I don't think you can. Like, I'm fortunate enough to be able to afford people helping us. But for example, when we go to Italy, or we just came back from Argentina, you can work, if you're lucky, 3 hours a day. If you're expected to take care of your family, not just from a financial standpoint, but literally taking care of your daughter, you cannot, because you have a house to attend to, you have your daughter, you have your wife, you have food, you have groceries, you have transportation, you have a lot of things that eat up your day, and you look at the end of the day and you just work 3 hours, 2-3 hours. But what you start doing is all of the nice to haves, all of the accessories, all of the things that are unimportant, you don't do them anymore. You focus on the core. For me, the core is either expansion or stabilization. And you work on those trajectories. You don't waste any more time. And that clicks the moment you realize you cannot sleep, you don't have any more time. You're going to be distracted most of the day, especially I work from home, so imagine. Everything that is unnecessary and an accessory, out of the window.
So would you say that becoming a father almost forces you into a hyper-focused mentality when it comes to business that you can't. Because I feel like sometimes when I feel like my business is overwhelming me or it's too much, well, the solution's easier. Just put in 16-hour days and just keep going until, and eventually something will let up. It's not like everything's going to keep flowing forever. And at that point, just hire more people to help you. But I guess with you,
there's a middle step. Before getting to this stage, before your daughter is born, I prepared for it. Like I structured the business so that it would not need me as often as it used to. I said 3 years. That was the timeline that I gave to Samuele to structure the business. Learn English, get into establish relationships.
How's his English now?
Great.
Really?
It's a mixture of accents. I do not understand him, but everybody does. Everyone who works around him understands him.
So
perfectly.
when I meet Samuel again, he'll be like, howdy.
Kind of. So I work to make that happen. It's not an overnight thing, and you cannot necessarily hire new people to replace you. You need to grind the stage of delegation, and when you grind it, you'll figure out that you do a lot of things that are necessary, and you do a lot of things that nobody can replace you, but you're also doing a lot of things that can be delegated. So I literally just wrote down everything I was doing. And one by one, I would delegate them, delete them, automate them, whatever it was. But my 10 hours before Sophia became 3, and it still worked. That's
quite interesting that you managed to carve out. I don't know. It's a very complex system that you've placed. I feel like business owners almost don't prepare for a child into their lives. They just pop in and then crash. That's what I've typically seen with my clients. I remember very specifically one of my clients was his wife had an emergency birth right then and there, and we were in the middle of an audit for him, and on top of that, he had a filing deadline. He panicked so hard because what do? Your kid's coming out in 6 hours.
No, you go to your kids.
Of course he'd go to, but I think that it moved him to a point of desperation that he came to me and gave me his laptop with the logins for every, and I'm like, okay, maybe we should get a lawyer agreement before. He's like, I don't have time. My child's giving birth. Here's my laptop. Here's access to all my money and everything. And just please fix this and try not to steal everything I have. I was like, I won't steal everything you had, but keep in mind, the next kid, we can't do this again. This is a one-time thing. And we ended up doing it just fine for him. And then he ended up getting sorted. And then I texted him, audit done. And then he sends me back a picture of a newborn. And I'm like, congrats. Can you please get him to stamp this? Because I'll need this again.
Yeah.
So I think that children can put you in a precarious position because they're almost like the king in a chessboard. Like they're the most important thing, and you will easily let your business collapse tomorrow if your kid's gonna be okay. It's one of those things.
If you want to use the analogy of the chessboard, you become a knight because you move in a very weird pattern, and if you move this side, you let go of all of this section, but you can jump back. You become a knight. Your wife is the queen. Your baby is the king. They are the most powerful pieces, and I think the culture shifted towards a father making sure that the mother can give as much attention to the baby as possible, and the baby will react by being a good baby because he has the attention of the mother. It's now key for couples and families to give enough time to their kids, and the mother is the key to all of that. You cannot delegate that. You cannot. What you can do is buy yourself some help so that she can have more time for herself and the baby. That's the only thing your father can do. And if you do that, it will work. The family will grow, and it will grow in a healthy way.
And seeing you talk about it so importantly and how stressed out of me, I'm pretty shocked to hear you, when we just met again, you were like, oh, I'm planning my second kid, but I got to sort out the first one. So do you think that this would get easier with the more children you have? Or
it does.
Really? So there's quote unquote economies of scale with babies.
There are, well, not literally economies of scale, because in Dubai, a child is an expensive endeavor.
Is it so is it true that the average child, and I've generally asked a lot of people, but the average child would probably cost you $35,000 to $40,000 per year, or around that point?
I have the math,
Yeah.
easily.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So me waiting till I have a couple mil or whatever to have a kid is completely justified?
It's not the baby. It's not just a baby. You have to adapt your house, your housing, your community, your schooling fees, expenses, nannies. It depends how you do it. They used to say it takes a village to raise a child. And I still believe that's a great way to raise a child, but it's unfeasible in Dubai. You cannot do it. You can do it in a small village in Italy. You have your grandparents, you have your friends. Your wife is going to know someone who she can let the baby with. Not in Dubai. In Dubai, everyone has his own schedule. Nobody's focused. Not many people are focused on family. Therefore, it's you, your wife, and if you're lucky, your nanny. It becomes expensive very quickly.
So given that you had a very hands-on approach and now your time is going to become limited, going to become more limited in the future, are you going to change your strategy into entering new markets? You mentioned India. Would you spend, but I don't think you're going to enter India with the same bravado you did with UAE. So is that why you're thinking more purchase retailer or purchase established business first and then scale?
I didn't tell my wife how I planned the India move, but it's planned in my head. So she's probably going to watch this. I plan in sprints. I would establish 3 months where we all relocate to India. So all of the
she doesn't know your guys moving.
No, she doesn't know.
Okay.
All of the pediatrician stuff, all of the baby stuff has to happen before we move, and then in those 3 months I make everything happen. Of course, you're not gonna move blindly. You're gonna move already with a list of potential acquisitions, potential companies and stakeholders to meet. But then you go there, 3 months, you close the deal, you come back, and that's when you might go back and forth for a while until you establish a foothold in the company, everything is stable, and my role is done. Samuel will take over in some way or another.
So Samuel I don't know how his English is going. I hope it's gotten much better. Now you're expecting him to speak Hindi. I could probably help him with that. So he's going to be the most fluent Italian, English, Hindi speaker.
He has a Hindi accent now.
He has a Hindi. Yeah. Why does he have a Hindi accent?
Everyone around him has it. So he learned English through an Indian accent.
That's incredible. Like, I can't wait to meet Samuel again and see what's up. Cool. Be like,
it's cool.
Do you think that he's picked up words that aren't English that he thinks are English but are actually Hindi?
Most definitely, yeah.
What are the words that
I don't know, but every once in a while I hear him speak on the phone and it's like, what is that? What is he saying?
Yeah, so he's just like, quickly, I need 5, jaldi bhai. And then he just like...
Probably knows what that means. I don't.
But it's interesting. So
talk about when you would become a father. What are you planning?
And
how are you planning?
So... Well,
it comes every time I come to every time we meet, it's the third question you ask me. How's fatherhood? How are you handling it? How does it work? How would that be if I were a father?
I think it's becoming a parent to me is something that I kind of want to do post business completion, and I know that this is going to be an endless route.
Yeah.
Me and my wife have spoken about it. I think that it's easier to kind of raise a child once the business is kind of running on autopilot. And I think due to me being kind of the face of the company, face to a lot of key engagements, so at least the way I work is that everyone I go into business with, it's built on trust, but then I also pull out a revolver and put a bullet in it and give everyone one revolver, one bullet, and tell it to point at everyone else's head. And that way no one has to trust each other because it's mutually assured destruction.
Sure.
Now, as soon as those people will slowly let down those guns and work without me being involved to say, don't shoot, everything's okay, that's when I'm saying, okay, I have the money, I have the time, I have the energy. No one's going to cut each other's throat and devolve into animals the second I am out of place. I think at that point, I'd say, okay, I can now pay attention to one child. And I think that is really difficult to happen. I don't see myself having
Yeah.
a kid for the next couple years. I know it sounds silly that I started a business at like 32 and I feel like I started late, but I'm late for fatherhood, I'd say. And I think a lot of men are entering fatherhood quite late. Like, how many kids did your dad have at the age of like 25,
Yeah,
28?
two already.
Exactly. And I guess now I'm turning 34. I don't have one. By the time that my dad was my age, he had 5. So I think it's also, I feel like this is a global phenomenon. I
Yeah,
think the
it is.
pressures of having children has become incredibly expensive, especially in Dubai. I think that the reason why there is such a crunch on having children is because it's become economically difficult.
Yeah.
I think that the expectations of fathers have moved to an acceptable pace. I think it's
Oh, yeah.
right. It's
Oh, yeah.
definitely the right thing to do. Like, you shouldn't have a woman with postpartum, like, dealing with a baby alone, for sure.
Definitely.
But at the same time, the support structures are weakened, the economy's tougher, and even business owners that are fairly successful are thinking twice, thrice, 4 times before having a kid. So when am I going to have a kid?
Is 100% true. You're gonna feel it eventually. Hopefully.
I think that I have these grand ambitions to have children, and if I can have 4 or 5, if I could do that now, I would. But the second is it requires so much setup that
does.
that it's just impossible for me
But
to execute.
Let me destroy your beliefs.
Okay.
It will never happen if you think that way. It will never happen because it will never be the right time. The bank account will never be as high. You will not have enough time. There will always be a client or a project or something in the way. It will never happen. So I think you should have a cutoff time, a date where you say, okay, let's try to prepare myself for 1 year. And I'll see at the end of the year how I'm doing. And then, of course, you share it with your wife. The journey has to be shared with your wife, and you decide together. But there is never an ending point.
I think
even in your career.
I think that I've given myself like a last age date. For example, if it doesn't happen before I'm like 38, I'd say it doesn't matter where I am in life. It's like that's the latest, because at that point I'm in a walker with like tennis balls at it chasing after my kid. So I've given myself a very clear cutoff date to have children, I guess. And then that's that.
I said 28.
You said 28,
and I did it when I was 33.
Okay, so there's a 5-year gap here and there.
Yeah, you break late.
I mean, it's
if you say 38, I don't know, put it a couple of years earlier.
And then, I never really found out how you met your wife and how you kind of got introduced.
We met here through an app, and I fell in love the first date.
It's the same with me. I fell in love with
that easy.
Yeah, exactly. I fell in love with my wife within like 3 days, and then we got married like 6 months later. It was very fast. So do you think that there is something to the when you know situation?
Yeah, at one point, I mean, you've been through enough trial and error to know what you're looking for, and if you're compatible,
I think it's also strange that I also see a lot of couples that have been dating for like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and they're still like, oh, we're still just together and we're not married.
I don't think marriage is the end goal. I think is to find a soulmate. When you find her, it's enough. If one of the two doesn't want to get married for one reason or another, it's acceptable. Now, in Dubai, it's not seen in a good way, but Europe, South America, the Americas, it's quite common. And you have law that still safeguards the parties, even though they're not married. So it's just a matter of adjusting the legal framework, but I don't think marriage is the end goal. I think it's the soulmate.
So you think that even though marriages on paper are down, the fact that common law marriage is a thing and it is taking the place of marriage in a weird way? Okay. And then are you worried about succession for your family? So the next thing we talked about after kids was like, okay, how do I raise a kid that isn't going to be just like on every Netflix show, there's a rich kid going wild and then going crazy. How are you going to encourage? What is your thought process of not encouraging? Are you going to send them a link to this podcast 10 years later? Be like, well, I tried and then they did it anyway.
I think about it every night, I swear. Where to raise her, how to raise her, which school she should be going to, which acquaintances she should be having, which culture or bubble she should be raised in. There's no answer. I swear there's no answer. I think about it every day. There's no answer. I think the only way to ensure that your child grows in a proper manner, in a safe manner, is giving them attention every day. Make them feel loved. They will know what love feels, and they will not be looking for love in other dangerous paths like drugs, toxic relationships, self-hurt. I think if you show them that you care, they will understand what caring is, and they will apply it during their life.
Well, I guess like that speaks to their emotional side, but
Yeah.
clearly this child's going to grow up not wanting for anything realistically. So how do you think that, the fact that you're a successful businessman, how would you apply kind of the economic support or make sure that they don't take advantage of the opportunities they have?
I set up a trust that says they're not getting any money until they tried getting a job. And I set it up where they will start receiving some financial support in an age where you're aware of the struggles that you need to go through in order to earn a living. So I think he's 30 or 32 years old, because if I unlock the bank account at 18, it's not going to work. 25, it's not going to work. 30 is the age, I believe, now where you tried a few paths, you tried working, you tried a couple of jobs, you know the struggle. I was reading a meme the other day where you stop caring about your iPhone model the day you start paying rent. And in Italy, it happens when you're 26, 25. So I think from 25 to 30, you start developing a framework of how life is. And that's when you kind of can appreciate how lucky you were to be born in a certain place or from a certain family. And that's how I do it. When she's young, I would give her a small salary to cover basic fun entertainment expenses, and that's it. So she gets exposure to money early, but not in a life-changing way. In my university days, I've seen people with Platinum American Express when they were 20. You're dumb if you do that as a parent. Your kid will never know the value of money. It's not even physical. It's in a card. It's like Monopoly. It doesn't work like that.
Well, that's, good luck with raising a child.
Yeah.
I feel like you have it, at least you have a semblance of a plan versus just throwing cash at the problem. So yeah, thanks for coming on, Nicolò. This has been absolutely wonderful. And I'll see you in seeing Samuel's.
Quarter.
Next quarter. Next filings, and then we'll catch up soon. Thank you for your time.
So much. Thank you.
Bye.